What's up, guys? Welcome back. Welcome to the second video in the Marvel Crisis Protocol series. Today we're going to be painting Black Widow. It's still all the cards and stuff are still in the bag, but we're going to paint her in this color scheme, like a black kind of leather, I guess. We're going to use the colors and stuff that are on this card as reference. Looks like we're going to need some blacks, some blues, some yellows, a little bit of orangey browns, and then some red. Teeny tiny bit of blue. So pretty simple color scheme. So here is the figure. It is built, put on its base, and it's pretty much ready to get started. So the first step of this in my process is I'm going to take, where did I put it? We're going to take Corvus Black. You can use black if you want, it doesn't really matter. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to base coat the entire miniature in Corvus Black. And what this is it's a very dark desaturated blue. It's kind of like a navy blue, I guess, would be the easiest thing to just call it. I'm not really going to focus too much on like hitting trim and stuff, but if you get it everywhere, you can airbrush it on, whatever you want to do. You want to base coat the entire miniature in this color. Alright, so next we're going to make a very small diversion. We're going to go ahead and mix about roughly a 50-50, but if you're going to lean more towards one color, lean more towards the second color in this. So 50% Screamer Pink, 50% Barbarian Flesh, and it's going to give you this really interesting looking kind of purpley, I don't know, it's like a pink color. Just go ahead and drop that in on all the areas of the skin. And the reason we're doing this now is so that before we do all the highlights and the crazy stuff on the suit and then potentially mess that up, it'll be easier to fix now where there's only one color on the bodysuit. So just try and get in there as best you can. Let that dry, maybe give it a second coat. That's up to you though. And this is the way I like to do my skin. If you want to do flesh and then wash and then flesh and then highlight, you know, knock yourself out. This is just what I like to do. Alright, so this is dried a little bit. So what we're going to do now is we've mixed a little bit of flesh tone into that previous color, and we're just going to kind of highlight a little bit. So you can cover most of it. Just I'd leave like the deepest recesses, and then like any shadow areas undone. And on your palette, this is going to look like a really funky color, but when you put it on the model, it looks a lot nicer. So don't worry too much about it. This is one of those, you know, this is one of those colors that context is going to help you more than anything. So once you start surrounding this color with other colors, it looks a lot different. Whereas when it's sitting on your palette, it kind of looks like silly putty. But we're just gonna grab all these areas real quick, just like last time. There we go. Alright, pretty happy with that. So we'll come back, we'll do some more highlights once this is dried. Alright, so once that's dry, we're going to go ahead and add just a tiny bit of white or an off-white to this, and we're just going to highlight the highest points on the face. So let's grab the forehead, the nose, cheeks, like the chin. You don't gotta go too crazy here, but we do want to just kind of pop out a little bit of these features to kind of make the face look a little bit more realistic. All right. Now, if you are so inclined, while you're here, this is probably a decent time. I'm going to use Mummy's Rose, but you can use whatever color you want. I don't like to go with a straight up white, but this is kind of like a warm off-white color. While I'm here, I'm just going to go ahead and pick out the eyes real quick. So I get in here like this. I try and get as nice of a point on my brush as I can get. And I'm just going to come in from this side and just barely touch it. And then that pink purple color underneath kind of helps make the skin look a little nicer. So there we go. So skin's done. Not perfect. Now another thing you can do is you can kind of go backwards. I wouldn't go all the way to your first mix, maybe the second one. And just grab like her bottom lip. Just to kind of make her face pop a little better. And you could even glaze a little bit of your pure that pink color to the cheeks maybe, if that's something you're interested in doing. Now if you don't want to do any of this, feel free to skip, you know. I like to kind of differentiate some of the facial features a little bit. I think this is a really easy way to do it. So I think I can live with that. So what's next is we're going to jump back to the suit. So let me get my colors straight and we'll come right back. Alright, so the next order of business is going to be highlighting the suit. So we went in with Corvus Black. This should definitely be dry by now. We're going to take Thunderhawk Blue. It's a very desaturated kind of gray blue. And what I'm going to do is, just like always, we're going to get a nice point on the brush. We're going to get a little bit of paint on the brush. And I'm just going to, like, I can hold this under the light and I can kind of see where the light's shining off of it. I'm just going to literally just draw in highlights where that light sits so that I know where I need to highlight. So pretty much the tops of things is a really safe bet. And then once you get a few highlights on here, it'll be a lot easier to just kind of wing the rest of it. So I grab her ribs here, a little bit of the hip, make sure we get it on the knee, top of the foot, front of the leg, top of this foot a little bit. You can spin her around. And then there's a great big section right here. Big section on the back where her back's like real flat. Obviously her butt. And then like the back of the calf. And I think we can live with that. That's pretty decent highlights, I think. So now that these are kind of sketched in, what we can do is we can start kind of blending them a little bit. I mean, you can obviously, if you want, you can just leave them like this, but I don't think that's going to look very good. So I'm going to take my Corvus Black. We're going to go right up against this highlight on both sides. Dip in my Thunderhawk Blue right in the middle. Clean my brush off, do a quick dry, and then we're just going to kind of feather this out on the edges a little bit to kind of create that like shine effect. And then the more you kind of go back and forth with this, the smoother it's going to get, the smoother it's going to look, the better it's going to look. But you know, I wouldn't fuss about it too much. Just get it to a point you're happy with it, let it dry, come back, and if you want to refine it, refine it. But, you know, don't fuss about it too much straight out the gate. Alright, so we've done all the highlighting and stuff. So now what we're going to do is we're going to come back to the face one more time. We are going to take some Vallejo blue-green. We are going to get the sharpest tip on our brush we can manage. And we are just going to dot in some eyes. I don't think this brush is small enough. I think we need a smaller brush. That's the only reason I got this teeny tiny one at all, is for this kind of work. So we're going to grab that blue-green, just that little dot, and we're just going to come in I don't know if I got that or not. I guess that'll have to do. There we go. I guess I can live with that. Alright. And then I've pre-selected my next color, so we're going to go ahead and grab Fenrisian Gray. And we don't need a ton of this. And we're just going to kind of throw some kind of highlights on our highlights. So just kind of pick those out. This is pretty watered down. Not exactly a glaze, but... And let this dry before you kind of make any hard decisions about it. But this is just going to be kind of like that, where the light's hitting it the hardest. So tops of folds, hard angles. And really you can kind of focus this on like the upper 2/3 of the mini. Like I wouldn't really stress too much about throwing a lot of this at the bottom of the mini. If you don't really want to. And that should kind of tie that, you know, real strong leather, latex, whatever look together. And that's pretty much the majority of the mini done. Like the hardest parts are finished. So next we need to do the hair and then the yellow details and then like the teeny tiny bit of metallic detail, and she's pretty much done besides the base. So I'll be right back and we'll start working on those. Alright, so for the base coat of the hair, we're going to mix a little bit of Mornfang Brown into a red of your choice. And we're just going to go ahead and base coat the hair. Now the reason we're mixing brown in is because I feel like it's going to give us a little bit more of a natural look. It's going to make it look less intense. That's a big thing we need here. And really, I'm actually like pretty satisfied with this color straight away. But obviously we're going to do a little more to it. We're going to try and make it pop as much as we can. Alright, so what I've done here is I took our red-brown mix, I took Troll Slayer Orange, I mixed that in, and then I took a little bit of Uriel Yellow, and then I mixed that in, and what I kind of swirled it around and then brought it back. So what we're going to do is we're going to start kind of over here. We're going to grab some of this orange color, and I really just want to highlight, you know, sections of the hair. That's really all there is to do here. I want it to be less red, obviously. We're going to bring it a little closer to orange, but that red is going to definitely influence the orange. And then we can pull from a little closer to the yellow and just kind of grab some of the highest highlights. And then we should be able to kind of glaze that back down a little bit, or wash it to push it back down towards orange. But we definitely want a couple of high points in here so that our highlights look like highlights. I think I can live with that. Now we can either go ahead and use this mix that we've already made to knock these highlights back, or we can come in with like a pre-made wash. I'm leaning a little bit towards the pre-made wash just because it'll save me a little bit of time. And for that I'm going to use Fuegan Orange. And I'm just going to kind of go over everything. And it's going to tint all those yellow spots orange. It's going to blend everything together. I think that kind of gives me the look I was going for. Alright, so the last order of business is going to be all the yellow details. There's like the tiniest red detail on the belt, but yeah, the last big thing to do is all the yellow. So we're going to follow the same kind of method we did last time. We're going to start with Talon Sand, just because my other brown is still nowhere to be found. So I'm going to just stick that here on the palette. And we're going to go ahead and start base coating all of those yellow details. So go ahead and grab all these little wrist things, her belt, for whatever reason her holster for her gun is also yellow. Just paint all that in this sand color. Alright, we're going to jump back into Uriel Yellow, and we're just going to kind of pick out all these yellow details. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead and shade these yellows down. So what I'm going to do is, for the wrists, I'm just going to go over everything with Seraphim Sepia. You could use an orange shade, you could use a brown shade. It really just depends on what tone of yellow you want for these parts. And then for the other parts, I'm going to keep using this color, but I'm going to use it in a different fashion. So I've got my highlight on my leg here, for example. So I'm going to start on like the side of the leg, and I'm just going to pull this wash to the back, and I'm going to leave the yellow in its purest form on the top. And what that's going to do is kind of shade the back, but use this pure yellow as the highlight. For the gun holster, I'm pretty much just going to wash the whole thing down. But yeah, so any sections where you've highlighted, you can use that as kind of a cheat sheet and just kind of pull that wash away from that section. Now once this dries, you can kind of do the same thing again, just cover a smaller area. For the medallions, I'm just going to kind of touch it on them, and if I need to highlight later, I will. I think this will look nice. It'll kind of dull the yellow down just enough that it's not going to be obnoxious. Alright, and then besides a handful of details in the base, this is done. So let's do those real quick. So what I'm going to do for the base is I'm going to take some lead belcher. And I'm just going to slather it all over this metal grating. We're going to use that stippling wash method we used in the last video to cover a pretty good chunk of this. And then while we're here, we're also going to just go ahead and paint the gun. Not a bad idea. For the bricks, we're going to base coat those in a brown, and we will dry brush with some orange mixed into our brown to create that kind of brick looking color. And then you can paint your base decorations any way you like. There we go. And then the brown for the bricks. I'm just going to go straight out of the pot because this is already thinned down. That will be okay. Alright, we'll come back when that's dried. Alright, and just like last time, we're just going to go ahead and stipple on this Agrax and Sepia combo. Starting with the Agrax, I'm just going to basically coat all the brick with it, but with this on the grating and stuff, we can just kind of stipple it around and create the impression of like really dark rust. You don't need a ton, but make sure you mix it up and move it around a little bit. Leave some spots nice and dark, but you don't have to go crazy. And then for this, we're just going to darken all this down a little bit, cover the bottle. There we go. Clean off our brush. And then just like the last one with the sepia wash, we're going to do the same thing. You can go over some of your other areas. You can go over areas that haven't been touched yet. Keep it kind of random. And then one last thing we'll do. Grab another piece of plastic. We're going to take this orange. I'm just going to grab a teeny bit of that. And then I'm going to take my flow improver or water or whatever you want to grab. I'm going to put like 2 or 3 drops on that. And we're going to kind of thin that down to kind of like a glaze. Yeah. And then we're just going to kind of grab a few spots with it. That might be a little too thin actually. There we go. Alright, so we're going to let that dry. We'll come back and we'll finish everything up. Alright, the last big step here is going to be to dry brush. So a little bit of orange mixed with the teeniest bit of red and brown. And we're just going to kind of dry brush over these bricks. You don't gotta go too crazy. Just enough to kind of give the impression that these were at least at one point brick colored. Good enough for me. Then we're gonna grab another flat brush. We're gonna grab our silver, dry brush the metallics. And I think we can call this a done deal. So there we go. So that's Black Widow. Real quick, real easy, not too much to fuss about. I'm actually pretty happy with it, given the amount of time I put into it. I think it's a pretty good tabletop standard, maybe just above tabletop standard quality. You know. Again, for the time I put into it, pretty pleased with it. So, hopefully you guys enjoyed. We will go ahead and jump into the next video here soon. And I guess we'll do who I've dubbed Sword Dude next. And that video is going to be on the character Baron Zemo. So, whoever that is. So hopefully you guys look forward to that. If you enjoyed this, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking through to the end. And I'll see you with the next video. Later.